Welcome to our very first coaching live. When I say our, I'm not just talking in the royal plural, just waiting for Gracie, Faf and Danielle Mullins to jump on, and then we'll get started. Now, if you're watching this live, or depending on whether you're watching this live or on the replay, I want to spend most of these lives answering your guys' questions rather than just monologuing. So if you're watching this live especially, please send in your questions. I did say that if you're willing and you're brave enough, that you are welcome to actually jump on the call with us. Some of you may have seen that I've had a couple of ladies on already. One was Angela from the United States, one was Mary from the UK, and they actually jumped on a live with me, and I kind of worked with them on this live right here, just so that you guys can see how I work. And so if you're willing to do that, by all means. I don't know how much we'll be able to do that tonight, just because of how many questions we have to get through. I've got it up here on the computer screen. We've got a lot of questions to get through. And so I might stick to that for tonight. And also, I think, given that this is the first live, it would be good for you guys to get to know Gracie and Danielle a little bit. I thought if it's all right with you guys that I might spend a little bit of time, at least at the beginning of this first live, just getting Danielle and Gracie to introduce themselves, so you also get to know a little bit about them. Hello, Gracie. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear just great. Can you hear me?
Yes. All right. So just waiting for Danielle to jump on, who's being fashionably late. But Gracie, I was just saying to the guys who jumped on, and again, whether you're watching live or on the replay, I wanted to spend as much of this just answering questions, adding value as possible. I don't want to spend a lot of time monologuing at the camera. Danielle is here now. Danielle, can you send me a request to join? I've not been this nervous, Gracie, to do an interview like a live, like in the past 8 years. This is all doing this Instagram stuff. It's all new to me. Danielle, can you send me a request? Gracie, how are you?
I'm good. I'm busy, but I'm good. I just got back from Miami on Friday night, so I've had a little bit of time to recharge, so getting ready for the week ahead.
I made it.
Danielle,
Hi.
hello. How are you?
Listen, it wouldn't be alive with me if I didn't have some kind of like Instagram difficulties. So
You how are your feelings on Instagram, Danielle?
Instagram is my toxic relationship. It's very, very symbolic to my love life. You know, it's just, I can't give up on it. So here we are.
Okay. All right. Hello, Corinne. I'm happy to have you here. So, Daniel, I don't know if you heard just at the beginning, I was saying, I want to spend most of these lives just answering questions. I think that's the best way to give value rather than us just talking about ourselves. But I just thought, given that this is the first time that we're doing this, I'm not going to assume that everyone knows who all three of us are. Some of you may not. So I thought I'd just spend at least a few minutes at the beginning of this first live introducing you guys and what we're trying to do here. So I'll start with myself, and I have your bios here. I might read them out. It makes it a bit easier rather than putting you guys on the spot. But for myself, and I'm just reading off my bio, I've interviewed over 300 pageant contestants from around the world since 2016. Can't believe it's been 8 years already. I'm from Sydney, Australia. I'm also an Amazon best-selling author. We featured 160 title holders in Confessions of a Pageant Queen back in 2020. And I've also coached kind of behind the scenes. I haven't really announced it that much, but I've interviewed women from pretty much every major system, Universe, World, Earth, International, Grand, you name it. But I've also coached people more so behind the scenes. And now this is all obviously sort of like coming out, making it more public. Also, just scrolling, I'm certified as a life coach under Tony Robbins. If you know him, I know Danielle does. And I've been doing this coaching gig for over 20 years. It's been a minute. Not always pageant coaching, some other coaching as well, like tennis coaching, tutoring, all that stuff. But that's me. And I've been guiding young women in particular through business, mental health, relationships, sports, and all that sort of stuff. Now, Gracie Faf, who is that one who's waving, in case you don't know, is a dynamic social media marketing expert and the founder of Influentialist Marketing, an agency dedicated to building impactful and authentic brand identities. Former pageant title holder and working model, Gracie brings a unique blend of poise, creativity, and strategic insight to the world of digital marketing, leveraging their platform to elevate purpose-driven brands. A two-time Forbes Under 30 nominee, 30 Under 30, Gracie also channels her influence into philanthropic efforts, notably as a founder and CEO of Harvest 107, where she leads sustainable agriculture projects like the Moringa Project in Haiti. Gracie, got anything to add?
I think that about covers it. We're not going to deep dive into all the aspects of my life that take too long.
Okay, fair enough. And then Danielle, who is the one that has a love-hate relationship with Instagram, pageant coach and the founder of Glamour by Danielle, a beauty business specializing in pageant glam. With nearly 15 years of experience, she was crowned Miss Earth USA and placed in the top 20 at the International Miss Earth competition. Her training has taken her around the globe, including specialized coaching in the Philippines to perfect her runway walk. Danielle empowers women to embody the essence of a queen, both with and without the pageant crown. She offers coaching and interview techniques, stage presence, and mental resilience, focusing on personal growth and confidence. With her wealth of experience and dedication to helping women succeed, Danielle guides her clients to shine on stage and in every aspect of their lives. So, Danielle, anything to add to that?
The only thing I would add is that I'm a cat mom. So if you see a little black cat run by, that is my son.
Okay, fair enough. I'm a cat dad, so I kicked my cat out. Just before we get to the question, so that, guys, that's the intro for Gracie and Danielle and myself. If you aren't aware of who we are, I'm not going to do that every time, but I just thought, given it's the first live, it was probably a good time to do that. I think just before we jump to the questions, and I have a list of them here, Gracie and Danielle, I'm going to ask both of you why you agreed to do this, because I reached out to the both of you and said, hey, I got a crazy idea. Now, obviously, both of you have a lot to do in your lives. It's not like you're sitting at home doing nothing. So I'll start with Gracie. Like, why did you agree to be part of this?
First of all, I've loved every conversation that we've been through. We've talked through a lot of business things over the past, 2 years now. Wow, I can't believe it's been that long. But yeah, so I just wanted to partner with people who understood the vision, who understood that succeeding in pageantry is not just about pageantry, it's about life. Succeeding in all these different aspects of your life and being able to know who you are as a person and be able to market it in a beautiful way, because we all are so unique and that should be celebrated.
Absolutely. Danielle, what about yourself? Why did you agree to jump on board?
In chatting with so many different pageant girls of all ages and different systems, there was just a common theme that I heard, and that they came into pageantry and they felt like they were blindsided by a lot of things. And it was something even I kind of related to. So when you came and approached with the idea, knowing that you and I are on the same page about pageants, we have the same viewpoint, and thinking about all those girls who'd been so hurt and unsure of where to go in their journey, I realized we really had something powerful here, so that we could help guide them and redirect them so that they come out of pageantry realizing all the beautiful things that come with it.
Absolutely. Now, guys, I said if you have any questions, to submit them below. There are so many people joining. I'm having problems. Like I just see scrolling. So if I've missed your question, you may need to submit it, because also I have this thing on a tripod, and if I touch it, I'm afraid it's going to fall down on me. But as I said, we've got a lot of questions to get to, different topic areas spanning everything from confidence to branding to on-stage. Interview was a big one. So we'll get straight into it, guys. So here we go. So number one, and now Linda just submitted this. She's over here in Australia. She's busy working at the moment. She has a question about mindset and stage. So she said, how do you get your mindset stage ready? Someone else also asked, what's one mindset shift that can help me go from being nervous to confident before stepping on stage? And I might throw this over to Danielle first, because obviously you've walked representing the US of A internationally. So how do you get your mindset ready to strut your stuff on stage?
It comes with the confidence behind it. So I know for me that I've put in all the work to know my walk and my routine as if it was muscle memory. And, even in the occasion when I got to a pageant and found out that the runway routine was going to be a little bit different than what I had practiced, I just moved around my spots. I made it through. And for me, the mentality is that I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing. And even if you're second guessing your walk, or second guessing if you have it, or if you're going to forget it or trip on stage, you have to stop and just remind yourself, it's an affirmation. I know what I'm doing. You've practiced this. You've worked really hard for this. You know how to walk in your heels. You're going to get out there and you're going to know what you're doing. And you just have to keep reminding yourself of that as you're on stage to help cool, calm, and collect those nerves. But really, it's all going to come back to the work you put in. If you're putting in the work before you get to the pageant, it's also going to help keep those nerves nice and calm.
How much, if I'm understanding this correctly, it's a lot about practice. So, how much practice did you put in stage wise before hitting Miss Earth International? Like, how much walking practice had you done? I saw one of you like walking in your heels on a treadmill.
It was daily. I dedicated time every day. And if I had a day that maybe I was booked with my day job, as I like to call it, and then had, still hit the gym, needed to meal prep, whatever it might be in my day, I said at least 20 minutes a day. If I can't take 20 minutes to put on my heels, what am I doing? Do I really want this? So for me, that was also kind of my marker to just make that everyday dedication of, yes, this is something I really want. I want to put my whole heart and soul into it. And I made sure that every day those heels got on my feet. I have a pair of heels that have a nice little blood stain in them because they were so worn out from wearing them. But that's when it's something you really want, a once in a lifetime opportunity, you just have to go for it.
You didn't want to clean the blood off of them. You kept it as a badge of honor. Like,
Well, you can only do so much.
that's probably more than I needed to know, but I think Danielle has made her point. It's a lot of hard work. I think the saying is competence breeds confidence. So in terms of being ready for stage, I think if you've done it so much that you basically could do it in your sleep, you're going to feel some kind of way. Gracie, obviously you've competed on stage yourself as well, has done a lot of modeling. You just got back from Miami, wasn't it? Miami doing a whole shoot. So what about yourself in terms of getting ready to strut yourself on stage, whether it's modeling or in pageantry? What are your thoughts?
Luckily, in pageantry, having been a model, like it's actually my job to know how to walk. So that part just kind of came naturally, but there is a big difference between a model walk and a pageant walk. So it was putting in that daily practice, that 15 to 30 minutes, not only practicing your walk, but also studying walks that you really love and appreciate and that you want to help kind of emulate and turn it into your own style. I think it's really important to put your own flair on it, but also as someone who has definitely dealt with stage anxiety, that's normal. And I think if you weren't nervous, you don't care. But it's not always nervousness. Nervousness is such a negative emotion. But if you turn it into excitement of, I've got butterflies in my stomach, not because I'm scared, but because I'm excited. I'm ready for this opportunity, and whatever it brings, I know that I've done the work to get here. And just kind of flipping that mindset of a negative to a positive really makes a huge difference.
I think that's a really important, but I don't want to gloss over that when you say, even just speaking to yourself, saying I'm nervous versus saying I'm excited. Two people can have exact same energy, and if one labels it as, oh my God, I'm having a panic attack, and someone else labels it as I'm excited, I'm ready to go. That manifests in two completely different situations. So I think that's a very big point. I think building on for that, because I did have another question from our broadcast channel. And by the way, Michaela, I saw you. So hello. Michaela is saying hello. If you haven't joined already, all I'm asking for tonight, join our broadcast channel. Okay, obviously you can contract with any one of us as coaches, but for now, my only ask is join that broadcast channel because that's where we're going to interact with you and find out what you guys want rather than just us saying we're the experts, we're going to make something and you better buy it. I'm not that level of arrogant. But building off of that, someone asked, how can contestants develop a signature walk for swimsuit/evening gown that stands out? And one of the beautiful things about having three of us on, I know nothing about this. So in terms of developing a signature walk for swimsuit/evening, I don't know if there's a difference, by the way, but I'll throw it over to Danielle again. How would you help? And I know you had an in-person day, or you're having an in-person day coming up. So if someone wants to develop a signature walk, how do you do it?
We just had our in-person coaching sessions today. With the signature walk, it's going to start with the basics. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Don't try to say, well, let's change all this. Learn the basics first and get really confident with that. And you have to kind of find your groove. What is your style? I think also researching other pageants to see, like, do you like something more conservative on stage, or do you like something more like grand and you want the full shebang? That's going to be your next key step. But then also in just creating something that's going to be your signature, it has to be something that you specifically do, you uniquely do, that you continue to do over time. And you know, it might just be something you have to play with in the mirror and say, okay, well, I liked how this contestant did that, but for me, I know my angle is better this way. So what if I reworked this and made it this to fit me better? It's a lot of trial and
Mhm.
error. I'm still kind of looking for my signature thing. I've heard it's an over the shoulder moment for me, but I want something a little more dramatic as my signature. But regardless, you just have to, for one, know the basics and be willing to play with it and take the time to decide, like, what is it that you really want to be known for when it comes to you being on stage.
Danielle, your signature is the eyebrow, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. See, listen, these are the little things. I need something more. I'm too dramatic for this. I need something a little more dramatic behind my name. But yeah, that eyebrow, it gets me. Don't think it's an attitude. It just hangs out up there.
Oh, Gracie, I remember you put up an Instagram reel about literally, I think it was your signature move. So, what are your thoughts on this? How can contestants develop a signature walk for their swimsuit or the evening gown that stands out?
Starting with the basics is an absolute must, but after that, you need to play to your strengths. Say you have really long legs, we want to see those long, beautiful strides, work those hips. Like, you want to show off what's great about you. For example, I'm not huge into astrology, but I am a Leo, so I have a decent head of hair. So I've always done like a fun hair flip and swim, and it's a moment. It makes people stop and look and be like, oh wow, like you got that blonde just flowing in the wind right here. And it works for me, and it makes me feel confident, makes me feel a little sassy, and it keeps me going for the rest of my routine. But then also, one thing that is really important to me personally was that I wanted to incorporate my modeling experience into my pageantry experience as well. And I talked previously about how modeling and pageantry, those walks are very different. But one thing that I learned at a very young age was the signature turn, where instead of stepping forward to turn, you actually take a couple steps back to turn around. So I wanted to incorporate that in my pageant walk because it was something that was really important to me and showcased my history. And so I always encourage girls to do the exact same thing. What's important to you? What are your strengths? What makes you feel good? And sometimes it's just something that happens in the moment, and it's not even something you practice. It becomes your signature because it just came so naturally to you and you felt great in that moment.
Okay, so just for the record, Gracie and myself are the two Leos. Danielle is a Taurus, if you hadn't figured that out from my post the other day. And also, I used to have long hair halfway down my back as well, so I'm tempted now to grow it back so I can try a hair flick, but somehow I think it will look better when Gracie is doing it than when I never tried doing that. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right,
I
let's
do
move
have a
on.
Leo in my chart, if that counts.
That counts. That counts for sure.
Fabulous.
I know nothing about astrology, so you might as well be speaking Greek to me. Let's move on to the next question. We're going into branding and social media, so I think Gracie will go to you first on this one. How do I grow on social media in 2025? I've been trying to post consistently this year, but it's so frustrating when no one sees my content. Thanks, algorithm. I'm not sure where to start with that one, but I think we can all relate to the frustration sometimes of posting and no one seeing it. But Gracie, how do I grow on social media in 2025?
You have to stay consistent. I know it feels like you've been working for years or months or even just weeks on being consistent. It takes time. It takes time to build your unique voice, to build your audience. And I also would recommend experimenting with different things. For example, if you've only been posting carousels on your Instagram feed for the past year and you are not seeing any growth, girl, let's try to put some reels out there. Let's, make some fun content. You have to switch it up. If something's not working for you and you've been doing it for a set amount, I would say a few months. I don't think weeks is enough time to see if something works on your feed. Try something different, make sure that you're putting hooks in your feed. Like, what is something that's going to make someone stop scrolling and want to listen to what you have to say? I know it's easy to get distracted and life gets in the way. Trust me, I deal with it. As a social media manager, I'm running social media accounts all day, every day for over 5 accounts. It's a full time, quite literally. So my account sometimes gets put on the back burner, but especially the pageantry, I would consider, instead of focusing on just the following number, just that growth, focus on making it kind of the portfolio of you. Who are you? What do you want the world to know about you? So that when people click on your feed, they know exactly what you stand for.
I think that's a great piece of advice here. Again, with the three of us, Gracie spends a lot of her time on Instagram, as do I. I have quite a lot of experience on YouTube. Danielle obviously is on Instagram, and she's already said she has a love-hate relationship with Instagram, but she's probably the one of us who's most enthusiastic about TikTok. So let me throw it over to Danielle as well in terms of growing on social media in 2025, because it's not just Instagram. It could also be TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, if you guys are old enough to actually remember what that is now. But Danielle, how do you grow on social media in 2025?
I love TikTok. That's my jam. Instagram and I, listen, let me just say, Instagram and I do not get along because my Instagram app has so many bugs. I love the idea of Instagram, but my app is what does not love me. It's the physical app. I've been building on social media since 2016. I've bounced around from some different platforms. I started actually in sales, so it was a completely different goal at the time from where I am now with social media. What I have found though is that you have to be so clear about what it is that you're putting out on social media, like what you want your brand to be, what you want to be known for. And you do have to, like Gracie said, you have to be consistent with it and you have to continually hound it. I like how Gracie tapped in on the fact, like, if those carousels aren't working after a couple of months, like, let's try something new with Reels, or maybe, even try something new on TikTok. Maybe video is your thing. I originally went to school for video production, so video is kind of my lane. That's why TikTok and I get along so well. I really want, though, Instagram and I to figure out this little relationship we have going on here. But you also have to decide within your own branding how vulnerable you're willing to be. Because if you're just constantly putting out like pretty pictures and the highlight reel, nobody's gonna relate to that. And you lose that personality that you have. People want to get to know really about you and, something that you're willing to share on social media. For me, it's always my weight loss journey. I never care. I'm pretty open about it. That's my thing. But you have to decide what that might look like for you. And it doesn't have to be something super deep by any means. This is up to you to decide what it is that's going to relate to your brand. And then, of course, just keep up with it. And you have to stop looking at those engagements. Sometimes they are important, they are good markers. But, think about it too. If you have 20 followers, you can't be mad that your post got 10 likes. That's a great engagement matter. So that's where you have to kind of turn your blinders to the engagements and start to think about consistently putting out the content. And then, of course, how you can upgrade and up level the content to make it more consumable or make it more appealing, whatever it might be that you need to kind of work on there to continually progress with it. But that's where Gracie's your girl.
I will say, in terms of me on YouTube, in case you're looking to grow on YouTube, I will say a lot of people say you actually plan out the thumbnail and title first, because each platform is going to have its own intricacies. Instagram is going to be different to TikTok, it's going to be different to YouTube. YouTube I love because I'm someone who can't stop talking once he's passionate, and sometimes it's very difficult to fit that into a 1 minute reel or like 30 seconds or even 3 minutes. I can speak for 3 hours and be quite happy. That doesn't fit on TikTok, but YouTube, you want to think of your thumbnail and your title first, because that's what captures attention. And the title should probably be directed at answering a question, because YouTube, think of it as a search engine. People go to, for example, YouTube pageant coaching or pageant walk. And so your title should be appealing to that person. It's a bit different to Instagram and TikTok. But let me throw it back to Gracie for a sec, because there's a lot of talk about algorithms. My Instagram feed and my Threads feed at the moment is completely filled with these experts who say, oh, you want to blow up, use this sound, do this, switch these things on. And I'm looking at it going, it's just kind of overwhelming. It's a full-time job just to stay up with the algorithm on one platform, let alone Instagram, Threads, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. So just from your perspective as working in the field, how much credence do you give to like spending your time working out what the algorithm actually is?
I think that people focus too much on how the algorithm changes. The algorithm changes quite literally almost daily. You're never going to be able to 100% keep up with every minor change that they make. But that's why being consistent is so important, because what works one day might not work another day, and vice versa. You just have to try and keep experimenting. But especially with social media right now, the reason that hooks are so important in the beginning of your video is the whole reason that the algorithm exists is to show people what they want to see. So if you're putting out a good hook that makes people stop scrolling, like it, bookmark it, share it, that's what the algorithm says. This is quality content that people like, they want to see, and they'll continue pushing it out. And that's why sometimes say it's a reel, it's, you know, it gets a decent amount of engagement for the week, but then sometimes it's like 2 weeks later, all of a sudden you have 100,000 more views.
Yeah.
And it's all because one person stopped on it, shared it, and it shared it with all the people who are similar to that person who would love content just like yours.
Danielle, did you want to chime in on the algorithm, or shall we move on?
I think Gracie really nailed that one.
Okay. All right. Let's move on to one that I think we can all talk about, but let's go to Danielle first, because you represent it internationally, and it's to do with negativity and social media, because sometimes social media is not always positive, to put it mildly. But the question is, and to Danielle, you first, how do I deal with negativity on social media?
When I was competing, I had, Gracie's going to kick my tail for this one, a bit of a post and ghost method. When competition started to get closer to time to my departure to Asia, I did not want to see what the pageant bloggers were predicting as their top 5, their top 20. I didn't want to see what my competitors were up to. I wanted to keep focused on what it is that I'm doing. And my theory on this also has been, if I can tell you exactly what my competitors or every girl I'm up against in the pageant is currently doing, then what am I doing with my time? Yeah. That's clearly time I could be better allocating to working on me. It's not you versus them. It is you versus you. If you're not working on you, if you're not working on your mindset, you're not going to make it as far as you want to make it within essentially the industry. But aside from just posting and ghosting, I still see crazy comments come through my social media all the time. That's the fun perk in putting yourself out there and wanting to build anything on social media. I aim to respond to everybody with love, light, and positivity. I make no assumptions because, again, it is social media. You cannot tell what somebody's exact tone is and what they're saying. So I may ask them for clarification. I may stop and say, hey, I see this is what you think. This is how I intended this post to be. And I'll leave it at that. Or honestly, realize you don't have to respond to everybody. Not everything on social media needs or deserves a response. And that has been, in a lot of ways, one of my more favorite methods and a way to approach it. Because if it doesn't actually bother me, why do I feel the need to respond to it? But those responses do help you, because that, again, is going to help boost and circulate your algorithm here. So I normally only ignore the comments that are just so far left field, really don't need any attention drawn to them. But on TikTok, for example, every now and then I'll get a crazy one that I might make a funny response to, or something like more uplifting. And again, it's going to recirculate that original video, the way I responded to the comment with a video. People are going to come back to it, and it's going to continue to push out my content. So I would say work on some thick skin. You're going to see God knows what comes through, but be so confident in who you are that when somebody tries to shake that mindset of how you view yourself, you're not bothered by it.
I've often said that the mute button can be your best friend in the lead up to a pageant. So you don't unfollow someone, but you mute them. And I'll just say for the record, I don't know how you two feel about this. I hate pageant hot picks. I just liken it to, like, I play a lot of tennis. In the lead up to a giant tennis tournament, you don't, like, even if you tag Roger Federer or whoever as, oh, this is my favorite to win Wimbledon, Roger Federer then doesn't go and share that on his Instagram. You know what I mean? So I think it can really do a lot of damage. I know a lot of people don't like it, and it can be very disheartening if you're never picked, which can be a big issue if you're coming from a pageant country like Australia, which is not as big as some of the other countries. But I love all of that, and definitely the mute button. Gracie, just moving towards you in terms of negativity on social media. I know you put up that reel about your aluminum. I'll say it in the American way because I'm on with Americans. The aluminum allergy, and then with your reel, I think you had like a bunch of people basically saying she's stupid, like she's making this up, it's a lie. If you were allergic to it and you ate that it was an aluminum, you'd now be dead. I mean, how do you deal with negativity on social media?
I've been dealing with negativity on social media for a few years now. It started when I started creating a music account for my hobby, which is, and I got million plays on one of my songs, and you wouldn't believe how many negative comments there were. Like, it's not that deep, y'all. It is just a song that I wrote and I started in a parking lot, and I happened to just, put it on social media. We don't need to be wishing actual harm upon me, which is insane, but like, people do it. But you have to have that thick skin, and you have to already be working on your mindset. If you cannot handle the negativity and it will affect your mental health, I suggest you turn off your comments, because it is not worth destroying your peace to let other people have access to that part of you. With my aluminum allergy, people are consistently telling me it's fake. I wish it was fake. I literally take a Benadryl after I posted my video about my aluminum allergy, because I was sitting in bed breaking out in hives from head to toe, because of minor interactions with it. So no, it's not fake, but I don't mind dealing with those comments, and I use it as an opportunity to educate people. It is such a rare allergy. Less than 5% of people across the globe have it, and even fewer have the type that I have, where it causes contact dermatitis. So I use it a platform of educating people, and also kind of teaching people, like, hey, how about we come at things with a sense of curiosity instead of accusation? I think it's so easy in day-to-day where people hide behind their screen and can be really aggressive for no apparent reason. We also don't know what's going on in that person's life. It does not excuse their behavior, but we should always treat people with kindness, even if they're not being kind to us. So just saying something simple like, hey, would really appreciate it if you, came at this with curiosity instead of accusation. I literally put that as one of the comments on my page, just because it's unnecessary, but you can use it to leverage your own message.
And if you have an aluminum allergy and you need someone to unwrap your chewing gum, then Danielle is available. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then you can go back on my social media and have a look. I think we've spoken enough about that. I'll just add my one piece, which is that you're going to come across haters in any field, not just pageantry. I think pageantry sometimes can be a magnifier for it because of the way the industry is. And so it's like exposure therapy. I don't think you're going to get over it by running away from it too much. Obviously, if you're having an acute mental health episode, then definitely distance yourself from it. But I think long term, the only way to get better at dealing with criticism, because some of it is well-founded, so a lot of it is not, is to actually face it. And I know criticism can be uncomfortable, but that's just the world in general as well. Okay, let's move on. We're closing in on our time, and we've got so many questions here. Let's switch to interview for a second. Now, a lot of people had questions about interview. They basically boiled down to not how to answer, but dealing with nerves. And I say that because if you're nervous as all heck and you're sitting down and you're sweating bullets, you're obviously not going to be answering as well as you could if you're cool, calm, and collected. So even if it's a question like, how can I answer? My question's always going to be, well, how are you feeling? So someone asked, and I'll go to Danielle first on this, in terms of interview, and she asked, how do I calm my nerves in interview? And some of the sub-questions related to this were, in interview, I respond too quickly and don't give full answers. Someone else said, how do I stop fidgeting in interview? Someone else said, in interview, I randomly giggle to stop my nerves. So in terms of interviewing and dealing with those nerves, Danielle, what have you found works for yourself?
I don't think anybody's going to love my answer for this, but you have to keep doing it. And when I say this, I don't just mean like, okay, yeah, I showed up to the pageant. Of course I'm going to do it. Like, go find a little pageant. I tell girls here all the time, we have these little pageants that pop up. It's like maybe 50 USD to go and compete. Super small, super chill. Go sit in front of that interview panel. Just go do it. Go try it. Sit in front of your interview coaches, interview with them, work with a mock panel. Ask your coach to put together a mock panel for you, and continuously put yourself out there, because the more you do it, the more comfortable you're going to be. Interview growing up was my weakest point. I would avoid a pageant that had an interview, which of course a lot of your bigger pageants require an interview. So I kept myself very small as a competitor because I was not willing to push myself out there. And once I decided I had a really big goal I wanted to go for, and I was going to really work on the interview, the more I did it, the better I got. Something like this 5 years ago would have intimidated me, and I probably would have walked out the door and told Adrian no, but this essentially is an interview. You were asking me questions, and I'm not fidgeting. I'm not worried about it. Chill as a cucumber, because I've continued to do it. And that's going to be your strength in anything is continuing to do it, because once you realize, hey, that wasn't so bad. Once you get that first interview out of your belt that you're like, I nailed that. It's like an addiction. And then you just want to keep going and working towards it. And then you realize the judges are not scary people. They're not here to hurt you. They're not going to bite you, nothing crazy like that. They just simply want to get to know you. And then you can really open up and start to let your personality shine in those interviews.
I love that answer. And I love the fact that even though you were uncomfortable with it, you kept doing it. I mean, that's a very you thing. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. If you don't like doing something, just do it a billion times. You're probably going to be better with it at the end. I'll circle around to Gracie in terms of interviewer nerves. I just want to highlight the potential here that Danielle and Gracie are on opposite ends of the spectrum here. I don't want to make assumptions, but I, for example, I love interview. I've always loved public speaking, but I think that makes me a very rare case. And I think Gracie is kind of the same because she's, I'm not going to say Danielle's terrible at interview, but Gracie seems to love talking. She loves public speaking. So she might be on the other end of the spectrum. But Gracie, for yourself, in terms of interview, how do you deal with nerves, if you have any?
I definitely get nerves. I'm human.
Okay.
But it very naturally to me, but it comes naturally to me now because I've been doing it for so long. Having a nonprofit at 12 years old, I had to learn how to tell people about it. And that's over 10 years experience with public speaking. I've even gotten to the point where I have done actual public speaking and spoken at a conference with over 500 women working in social impact. I am comfortable on a stage talking to people, but the way to get over nerves is to A, know your abilities, and B, have fun with it. They're just people. It's just people. You talk to your mom, you talk to your friends, you talk to your neighbor, and you're not nervous talking to them. You just feel like there's more riding on it. But hey, they're just people at the end of the day. And I always tell people, at the end of the day in pageantry, judges want to leave that interview feeling like they want to be your friend. So talk to them like a friend. Of course, get your points across. It's a slightly more formal than like, hey girl, what's up? But you can have fun with it, be a little bit more relaxed. As the years have gone by, I've consistently placed in some of the highest interview scores in the pageants. And that's really been an indicator for me that this is my strength and I can keep working on it. No one's ever perfect, but dealing with nerves, one of my favorite things is to walk into the interview room. I'm a bright, bubbly person. I walk in there with a huge smile on my face. I feel really cute in my outfit. And I say, good morning, everyone. It is so nice to meet you. And that automatically is breaking the ice. I'm getting my fun, bubbly energy out. So it's getting out any of those extra butterflies, and it makes the judges feel more comfortable. What people don't recognize is oftentimes judges are nervous too. A lot of them have never done this before. They don't know that they're going to pick the right person. Again, they're just people. So take a deep breath, break the ice, and say what you got to say.
I love how Danielle's advice reflects her personality, and Gracie, your advice reflects you. I remember you telling me that when you went to school for a short time, you decided you'd introduce yourself by shaking everyone's hand, and that may have not gone so well. But Danielle, were you going to say something?
Actually, you all kind of like brought up a good point here in my mind. So yes, I am a little bit different and I don't like the interview, but it's not that I don't like to speak. I've never liked to interview because I didn't know what they were going to ask me and I didn't know if I was going to have a good answer. So kind of circling back, that's where, of course, like doing it more is going to help, but that's also where having a brand and being very clear about why you're there at that pageant, what your mission is in competing in a pageant, who you are as a person is going to carry you through that interview. And that's why when you hear coaches talk about building your pageant brand, while it may sound confusing, that's actually going to be like essentially your Bible to carry you through the pageant. And that's where I always messed up. I had no idea what I was doing in the beginning.
I think that's a really good point, and it leads neatly on to another question here, which was, again, with interview, but this time from a different perspective, which was the person had difficulty condensing everything they are into a 30-second answer. And this has been a huge problem for myself. I might go to Gracie on this one first, just because I have so many different business ideas going at the same time. Recently got diagnosed with ADHD, which doesn't make it any better. I'm passionate about a billion things. I mean, just this morning I was looking up how to catch crabs and do that because I'm going fishing in a couple of months, and I wonder like what's the best way to do this. And at the same time, looking at marketing, email lists, social media. I'm doing this with you guys, and I'm starting an AI business. And so my difficulty is probably coming back to branding. Like, how do I actually brand myself? I mean, you can have two issues. One is you have no idea where to start because you don't have a brand. But I think for me, the problem is there's so many different things. How do I condense that into that 30-second coherent pageant answer that we want in interviews? So Grace, let me go to you first. How would you start going about building a brand?
First and foremost, you have to know who you are and recognize your story. Everyone has a story and everyone has a marketable story. They just differ because we've all had different experiences. What I always tell people and what I do for myself is to make a bullet list of key experiences in your life that have changed who you are and have made you the person you are today, and all the things that you stand for and are passionate about. Those things are going to guide you. And I always tell girls, make a list of all the things that you want to walk into that interview room and you are not leaving until all of those things are said and that those judges know about you. For example, I'm a nonprofit founder, model, and I work in digital marketing. That's a good amount to try to condense into, a couple minute interview. So one thing that I did is say like, oh, I'm a go-getter. I chase after my passions. So there's little branding tips like that where you can condense who you are into bite-sized pieces. And then, for example, a judge might connect with one aspect of your story and ask you something specific about that. And you have to be able to, switch into that mindset. So if a judge asks me about my nonprofit work, I don't need to be bringing up my social media right now. I need to be talking about, hey, I started a nonprofit at 12. I lived in Haiti for 5 years because of it. This, and this. Then another judge might be like, oh, well, I hear that you work in social media. Like, I see it on your paperwork. Tell me about that. I need to turn off my profit brain and go into marketing. That's where just knowing who you are comes into play and what you have to offer.
So self-awareness is hugely important, and making that bullet point list. Yeah, I love that because, again, I've had fishing on my mind. It's almost like throwing out different breadcrumbs, and then if the fish go bite over there, then that's where you go. Danielle, how did you go about building your brand? Because you said the mistake you made at the beginning was that you didn't really have one. So how did you go about crafting your brand and what you stand for?
I had to decide what it was that was important to me. So like Gracie was highlighting those key moments, I had to decide, who is it that I am today? What is it that I'm very passionate about? What is it, if I could leave behind a legacy or essentially have like a personal mission, what would that look like and what ties into that? Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of things I would love to sit and share with the judges and tell them all about me because like Grace, we have so much more to us, and it is so hard when you only have a 2-minute interview. But I had to decide what it was that was top tier, important to me, what it is that also ties in to those little brand details that are important, and just keep focused on that so that I wasn't having a squirrel brain moment and talking about something that's not even on my bio sheet that came from left field that has probably nothing to do with the pageant, who I am as a competitor even. But then, of course, the question also still poses is, how do you condense that into 30 seconds? I liked Gracie's idea. And, when all else fails, phone a friend or use ChatGPT. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I love ChatGPT to help me condense my thoughts. I love to ramble and talk in the app, which is ironic that I never liked interview growing up, but it was the questions. It wasn't the interview, it was the questions.
That's fair enough. All right, I think we have time because we're almost over time already. We'll go through one more question. Just before we get to that, if you guys are looking at the three of us and wondering how to work with us, so Gracie obviously does a lot of work in branding and social media. So if you need help with your social media, send her a message. She's influentialist marketing. She works there with her mum. I will say her mum helped me get my hacked Meta account back. So if she can do that, she can do anything. And she did that in America when I live in Australia. Danielle obviously has just come back, or recently come back from doing in-person walking sessions. So obviously if you need help with that, or you need the international perspective, then Danielle's your girl. You can hit her up there. Crowned.mentality, or her main personal account. In terms of working with myself, I was just thinking, I'm going to throw it to you two, what you think of this as a crazy idea. I've got most of the questions have been about interview. That seems to be a really big sticking point, which is not hugely surprising to me. Danielle, you brought up the point of mock interview. What if we were to do some mock interview sessions for our group? If we had the three of us, and you can jump on a Zoom call, and we can bring in even some celebrity judges, because obviously I know a lot of people, both of you know a lot of people. You could bring in some guest judges as well. What would you guys think about that? Would that be something that would be useful?
Yes, I love it. Danielle and I have actually done mock interview panels together before as judges. So, yeah, this is kind of our thing.
Okay. All right. Well, let's do that then. I'd love to offer that on a semi-regular basis because, like Danielle was saying, the only way you get better is by doing it. And I love the idea of having, something like once a month where you guys can practice those interview skills, because I think that's the only way you get better at it. Speaking as a tennis player, you don't get better at tennis by thinking about it. You got to go play a match. And I think if the only one interview you do per year is at the actual pageant, you're not going to be nearly as good as you could if you've been practicing it day in, day out. And I don't think anything takes the place of interviewing in front of people, even if it's virtually. Answering it in your head or answering in front of a mirror is not the same because there's not that same amount of pressure. So I think that could be really cool. All right, final question. This is a bigger one, more generalistic one. What's the one skill I need? My computer just shut itself off. What's the one skill you think I need to truly thrive on stage and in life? So not just pageantry, but in life in general. So Gracie, do you want to take this one first? One skill.
Confidence. The number one skill that will get you through pageantry and life. And a lot of people think you are born with confidence, that confidence is not. Confidence is a muscle that you have to work. Confidence comes from within, and it comes from consistently working on who you are, working on self-improvement. I think that confidence can get you through pageantry, not only, get you through that interview room, get you through that stage performance, get you through those losses even, and the wins, but it will also help you in life. If you show up to a job interview and you have the same qualifications as another person, but you are confident and they are not, guess who's getting the job? Someone who's confident, they bring that energy. For me in modeling, when I show up to a casting and I show up confident and I'm like, yes, I'm the person that you need to pick for this job, I book it. Confidence will get you through so much of life and will also bring you a lot of peace at the end.
Danielle?
Similar, but I'm going to say mentality. You have to believe that you are that girl when you walk into the room, which does play in a lot to confidence. But what I see is that a lot of girls think they have a very positive mindset, but then when you sit down and you look at the nitty gritty, you have a lot of limiting self-beliefs or maybe even a negative mindset, and you don't realize how that inner self-talk is creating a mental block that's stopping your growth. One of my favorite things to do with girls is to write out those thoughts of self-talk. Like, how is it that you speak to yourself? And then to go back through and rewrite it and make it a positive statement. So, and even for me, it's been the most transformative piece is to understand the power of the mindset, the power that you hold, and to completely rewire the brain, change how you think, have that positive mentality and the mentality that, you just have to go for it because why not you?
Love it.
Oh, Gracie's light is gone. I think, and I'll just close on this. I think for me, confidence absolutely is important, but I'll add resilience. I know both of the women below, you can see below, have gone through their share of tough times, as have I. And so if something bad happens and you give up at that first hurdle, then that's really going to stop you from success, not only in pageantry, but in life in general. So I think if you can combine the mindset, the mentality, the confidence, but also the resilience, because things don't always go your way. Often, in fact, in pageantry, it's probably more than 50% of the time, depending on who you are. It might be 100% of the time, it's never gone your way. But you need to pick yourself up and keep going no matter what. And hopefully that's something that we can help you with here, give you a bit of encouragement, a bit of support, because pageantry can be a crazy world. I think one of the big reasons I partnered up with both Gracie and Danielle is because they know that. They're not naive to that. And so if you've had issues in pageantry, we get you. I, at this point, having interviewed over 300 pageant contestants from around the world, I've seen everything. I don't think at this stage anything would surprise me. And I'm pretty sure Danielle and Gracie would be the same, given them some of the stories we share behind the scenes. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to thank Gracie and Danielle for their time. And guys, if you have any questions or comments in the future, please make sure you join our broadcast channel. That's where we're going to be able to keep you up to date with the lives we're doing. And you can vote on our polls or send your questions in that we can answer on these lives. And then if you want to work with Danielle or Gracie, which I certainly highly recommend, then send them a message and I'm sure they will be happy to have a chat with you. But Gracie, Danielle, anything before we hang up with the audience?
I think we covered it, but thank you to everyone who joined. We're excited to hopefully work with you and share all of our fun stories, tips, and advice.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to working with everybody as well. And just remember that you are your own biggest competition. It's your mindset that sets you apart from everybody.
Perfect. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Gracie and Danielle, if you have time, I'll jump on that StreamYard link now so we can just have a quick chat to wrap up.
Okay.
But thanks to everyone for watching, and we will speak to you next time. Bye for now.